Hey guys, what's going on? Today is Monday, January 25th, 2016. Very sad day in New England.
The worst kind of day, actually.
The type of day that only comes around once every 2 or so years.
You know, Tom, if you're gonna give me a little bit of time to go off, I think I've earned that, and it's been building for a while. Over, I'm gonna say the past 7 weeks. So if you just let me have this moment.
No, go ahead. I already know what you're going to say, but go ahead.
This moment of salty justification. We lost last night because of Bill Belichick. 100% of Bill Belichick. His piss poor management down the end of the stretch of this season. His bad game management. His bad calls. His arrogance. His cockiness. His disrespect of his opponents. And his over evaluation of his own talent.
See, I have a really big problem with not only the choice to go for it on 4th and 6 there. That was 4th and 1, with about 6 minutes left.
Yeah, it was like 5:30.
See, I felt they should have taken the points there.
You take the points there. It's just
simply because the defense completely shut down Denver in the second half.
Yep.
And
if you look at the next 3 drives, I don't think Denver got past the 50.
No, there were 2 consecutive 3-and-outs following that blunder on 4th and 1, and I feel even more justified when you look at the play call. It was just a terrible play call. I don't understand what they were going for there.
I mean, they had all the time in the world to pick their play, and that's what they come up with.
But it's ridiculous to me because you didn't have time to get that play off. And you have to know that based on the way that the defensive line was controlling that game for Denver. Mm-hmm. To think that you're going to be able to run that play action and then float a ball to Jules basically on the line of scrimmage, and that he was going to catch it in space and get a yard.
No, horrible choice.
I don't understand what you're trying to do there.
And, honestly, Bill lost by not taking the field goal this game. But this game would have been entirely different if he managed the end of the season correctly. I've been saying it for weeks, Tom, since we lost to Denver the first time and then we gave away games, specifically that Miami game that we 100% gave away. If we go to Denver and we lose because we played in Denver, then shame on you, Bill Belichick. You cost your team a chance of being in the Super Bowl. And that's how it played out. Because if you look at what happened in that game, we had offensive line breakdowns. It looked like they didn't have the assignments figured out. It looked like they didn't know who was coming from where. Why is that a factor? Crowd noise.
Cannon and Vollmer were just being demolished all game.
Horrible. If you're at home, you can at least play with the snap count. You can do something like that to try to mitigate some of the rush. You can't do that in Denver because the crowd noise is too loud. So that's one. 2, you look at our players. Someone like Gronk, who the guy championed it out. He played the best he could, but he was, I'm going to say, maybe 60% of what he is during that game. The guy's clearly wasn't able to play in that altitude.
When they showed him laying on the ground being worked on by the trainers with rollers and oxygen, and he's laying there for 3 plays at a time, I knew something was wrong.
Yeah, it was obvious.
And even though it's just cramping or whatever, that doesn't happen anywhere else.
Outside of Denver, yeah.
In the league, yeah. That he doesn't have that issue playing in New England.
No. So here we are on the 25th, Monday, following AFC Championship game, and it's sadly to say I was right. Bill, you cost your team a chance to go to the Super Bowl. You cost Brady a chance for his 5th ring. You did this. People want to blame Gostkowski because that's the easy way out, but no. That 1 point isn't what cost you this game. Sure, you didn't get to overtime because of that, but that's mitigated if you just take the field goal and you make the smart choice, or you're at home in the first place.
So I don't think that Gostkowski is to blame either. I mean, the guy had 524 consecutive extra points. So you're going to screw one up eventually. It sucks that it happened on the stage that it did, but it does lead me to wonder if Gostkowski hits that extra point and you're down 7 instead of 8, does Bill take the points on the field goal there? With 6 minutes left in the game.
I don't think that changes the outcome of the game regardless, though.
But
right?
but what I'm saying is it might change Bill's decision making in that specific scenario where they take the points, and if the rest of the game plays out the way that it does, the Patriots do score the touchdown there, and then you win the game at that point on that touchdown.
But if you had taken the field goal in the first place, and then the rest of the game plays out the way it did,
right,
you still win the game.
And I'm not saying that. So I think what they did was right, because I would have taken the points there. I would have kicked that field goal the way your defense was playing in that second half. You completely shut the run game down.
Yeah.
And we were saying all week, pretty much everyone in media was saying if the Patriots could stop the running attack, Peyton Manning didn't have it in him to score more than 20 points. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened. Yep. You held them to 20 points. You're supposed to be the New England Patriots. You have Tom Brady. Your offense is healthy. This was a team that was supposed to march up and down the field, and they just couldn't do it.
No, and like I said, I think a lot of that comes from offensive line couldn't hold up playing in Denver. I think the offensive line plays better in New England. Gronkowski is going to be better in New England. He's not going to be cramping. He's not going to be taking 3-4 plays off at a time. And the biggest representation of how hobbled I think Gronkowski was is in the back of the end zone where Brady lofted it, and Gronk tried to get the call until saying he was held down. I don't think that happened at all. What I think happened is that Gronk had no legs left to him, and he couldn't jump.
Yeah, see, I thought early in the game, the first touchdown drive for Denver, they got a PI on 3rd and 10, moved the chains. I thought that was a soft PI call. It led to 7 points. The following drive, Gronk gets what I thought was clearly held on a 3rd down play. They don't get the call. And I'm sitting there on the couch saying,
I think that
we're going to have issues with the refs today. But I will say this, that was the only instance in the whole game that I felt that they were slighted by referees. To people around town have been saying that they feel that they got screwed by the refs, and that's just not the case.
No, I think that the pass interference you're talking about, the one on 3rd down where Gronk was running that comeback route, I don't think that was pass interference, because I think the way they ruled it was an uncatchable ball. Because it was pretty high, and maybe somehow Gronk could have caught it, but I think that was the reasoning for not getting a flag there.
I'd have to go back and rewatch the specific play. I remember seeing it live in time and saying, that's basically the flag you gave them on the other side of the ball. Where's the consistency?
Yeah.
But the point I was trying to make was that I don't feel that you got screwed by the refs. I don't think anyone lost this game other than this team.
Yep. I mean, honestly, if we're dealing out percentages of blame, I'm going to put about 75% of it on Bill Belichick.
And I've kind of been a bit of a Bill Belichick apologizer or sympathizer, or however you want to put it, over the last couple of weeks, saying that I really did think that this team could have gone into Denver and beaten Denver. And then you look at everything that happened, and it doesn't matter anymore because they win. But that didn't happen. Yep. And the way that it didn't happen was on bad coaching decisions, in my mind, in that game. If that is your sample size, you're talking just the AFC Championship. I think they lose that game because of poor coaching. And I can't defend the guy,
Nope.
And I really do think they win that game if it's in New England. And that's not me going back on
what you said earlier.
What I said earlier, saying for the sample size of that game, if that exact game is played out in New England, I think they win it.
Yeah, 100%. I thought that we would still go in. I thought we would win. I did.
I think they still should have won the game.
Yeah, I picked the Patriots to win, but I always left open that I don't like going to Denver. I don't feel good about it. And if we lose this game, then I'm going to be hard on Bill. And that's what I am. And the best way I can describe it is if Bill Belichick had retired last year and we had a new coach, call him Joe Smith if you want, and this season played out exactly the way it did under Joe Smith, we would be calling for him to be fired immediately.
Nah, I don't agree with that.
I do. I think that's how bad the coaching job. We were 10-0, and you went 3-5 over the last 8 games. And during that, you pissed away home field advantage, which ended up losing you the chance to go to the Super Bowl. Everyone in New England would be furious. If you take Bill Belichick's name off the equation, then you're talking about a coach who arguably should, if this was Bill Belichick's only season coaching, I would want him fired. Honestly, I'm going to be completely honest.
I think that's ridiculous. Honestly,
because you're still thinking about it as Bill Belichick.
No,
Take Bill Belichick.
I'm thinking about it in the sense that this team went to the AFC Championship game and put themselves in a position to win and couldn't close. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I never would you call for a team that loses in the AFC Championship by 2 points to be fired, to have the coach fired.
Sure, you do it with Marvin Lewis almost every year. I mean, not that he makes it to the AFC Championship, but he makes it to the playoffs. He has a good regular season, and then he makes bonehead play calls.
But he's not. He still has a job.
Yeah, and that's a mistake.
Right, because he's been one and done. How many? 5 times?
I think it's 6.
That's the bigger issue. It's not that they make boneheaded plays in a playoff game. It's that they've done it consistently, and the consistency is the part of that I think is the most damning.
Okay.
So
Let me ask you
one
this.
season and you botch, you mismanage, we'll say, the last 5 weeks of the regular season, and it puts you in a position where you lose the AFC Championship game. I don't think that comes. I don't think you fire a coach on that. You can be mad at the coach. You have every right in the world to be upset with the coach. I'm upset with Bill Belichick. You clearly are. You saying that if it was his only year that he deserves to be fired, that's ridiculous.
Think about where this team started, 10-0. Easily should have been have the AFC Championship game at home. Easily should have been in the Super Bowl. This team should
not necessarily, because at the time they were 10-0, Denver was 9-1. So to say that at 10-0 you had locked up home field.
No, they were 8-2.
To say that.
And they were in the midst of a quarterback shuffle, Tom. No, it's not easily. They should have been there, Tom.
The AFC was terrible this year.
The AFC is what it always is. It hasn't changed. It's like this every year. This team should have been in the Super Bowl. And if you're going to view this one season and you say it wasn't Bill Belichick, then I personally think that...
No. I'm not saying it wasn't Bill Belichick. As a matter of fact, I said I agreed with you that Bill Belichick was the reason, even in that game alone, that they lost. Okay? What I think is absolutely ludicrous is you saying that if he was a coach of another team and it was his first year that he gets fired. Absolutely no way.
No, I'm saying,
that's insane.
Tom, what I'm saying is if it wasn't Bill Belichick, you're still looking with the Bill Belichick blinders on, Tom. If it was not him, if it was a random coach who you had never seen before, how can you not want that coach gone?
Only a Patriots fan calls for a coach to be fired after an AFC Championship loss.
No, there's plenty of teams.
That is your Patriot fan bias coming in.
I think that John Fox got fired of Denver after an AFC Championship loss.
Not after one season.
You got to look at how you got to that loss.
We are literally not going to agree on this at all.
All right. Well, I think you're very wrong.
I think you're insane.
Nope.
Let
me ask you this. What would you give the coaching grade for this year?
I would give it overall.
Yep.
Week 1 to the AFC Championship game.
Yep.
I'd give it a C-. I
would give it a D.
So we're arguing over a minuscule difference.
I don't want to. I'm just saying I wouldn't want a coach whose first season was a D.
I don't know what you want me to say because you're talking about a hypothetical coach, coaching a hypothetical season for a hypothetical team of football players. So I have no basis.
An actual team of football players, it was still the same team. I'm just trying to put in perspective how bad Bill Belichick's season was.
And I think you are so grossly overshooting it. Like, you're going way over the top with it. If we're going to talk about other things that you were way over the top and wrong about, Arizona Cardinals got murdered by my Carolina Panthers. And at least I can sleep soundly knowing that Peyton will die a slow, painful death playing the Carolina Panthers in the Super Bowl.
I don't think it's going to be that slow.
Oh, no. When they're down 21-0, and there's still a half of football left to play, that's a pretty slow, painful death, if you ask me.
I think he's going to bow out somewhere around 17-0 after he's been slaughtered. So I was wrong. The Panthers are very good. They are clearly going to win the Super Bowl. I don't think that Denver has any hope at all. I think they should not even show up. They should go to the Pro Bowl and hang out and have fun and just let Cam Newton get his ring because it's going to be embarrassing. It's going to be very embarrassing. I think it's going to be worse than the Seahawks game.
I don't see a scenario where it isn't horribly embarrassing.
I mean, I guess that their best hope would be
Cam Newton blows his knee out in the first snap of the game. Like, that's the only way I can see Denver having a chance of winning this game.
Yeah, I mean, it would have to be something along those lines because they're better everywhere, at every position. I can't think of one position that they're worse at.
See, I think the one thing that we learned from the Denver game is that they're very quick up front. And I think Carolina can negate that fairly easily because they're so quick everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, Carolina's got just as good a pass rush. They've got the best linebacker in the league in Luke Kuechly. They strong in the secondary. I do actually no, because Denver's safeties are hurt too. The only place I think that Carolina team is weak is the safety position, and
Denver doesn't have T.J. Ward or their other guy there, whose name is escaping me right now. They both went down in that game.
I mean, I'm sure someone will come back. I don't think those were career-ending or season-ending injuries, but
yeah, I don't really know anything about the term of the injuries, but they both were out of the game against the Patriots.
Yeah, so they're gonna get slaughtered.
I'm curious to see how Denver tries to defend Cam Newton specifically, because they've got a really good front four. They've just got a fast defensive line.
Yep.
But if you try to blitz Cam Newton, he's going to get outside on you and run.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're taking guys out of coverage, so he's going to extend plays and make plays down the field, or he's just going to bootleg on you and be gone.
And honestly, I don't think that the Carolina's receiving squad is very good at all, actually. So I guess that's the one position I'll give it to on Denver. But I'll tell you what, they get the job done.
I think that
it's enough.
I think that Cam Newton is so much better of a quarterback right now than Peyton Manning is too, that it offsets it.
Yeah, I don't think that's even close.
I'm actually excited to watch the Super Bowl.
I don't think I'm gonna watch it, to be honest. I got no interest in this one.
I'm definitely gonna watch it. I'll be rooting for the Carolina Panthers.
This is about worst case scenario for me.
Yeah, you are so salty.
Yeah, it's Salty Monday. Like I said, everything yesterday went wrong. Literally everything. It was. I actually felt good about the Cardinals game up until Patrick Peterson picked it off and ran it down to like the red zone, and then I texted you like, oh, "I'm not even worried." And then Carson Palmer threw the pick, and I was just all right. TV's off. I was like, "Yeah, that's a wrap."
I left my buddy's apartment and was at the Nashua Garden just slamming beers and throwing darts at the wall for about 2 hours. And I kind of just took a peek up at the TV every now and then and saw the score keep growing in Carolina's favor. And I was pretty much numb to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to be the early game because it kind of ruins the second game for you if you don't win.
And it absolutely did that.
And it sucks because that was a game I wanted to watch. Thankfully, it was a slaughter, and I didn't miss much.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I thought Arizona was better, to be honest with you. It looked like Carson Palmer, must have talked to Manning, and Manning must have given him his poopy pants because he cost him that game wholeheartedly. What was it, 2 fumbles and 2 picks, or 2 fumbles and a pick?
Something like that.
And they all came at really inopportune times. And I think that's one thing that I underrated about the Panthers defense is their ability to take over and take the ball away.
Luke Kuechly is the only player in NFL history to have back-to-back playoff games with a pick six.
Yeah, well, that's impressive.
From a linebacker, too.
Yeah. He's nasty.
He's unbelievable. I feel like a lot of the people, or scratch that, I feel like all of the people who have undersold Carolina's ability to be a championship football team are just left eating their words for 2 weeks.
Yep, I am.
And it's pretty much, this is like a 2-week, coronation period, pretty much, where the media is going to be all over this, and it's pretty much a foregone conclusion.
And, the frustrating thing for me, the most frustrating thing for me is if we win yesterday, I think we can beat Carolina.
See, I would have been very scared of that matchup. If the Patriots win that game, I'm rooting for Arizona. 100%. 100%.
I think that on a neutral field, or really any field that's not Denver, I'll take the Patriots in any game.
See, I think Cam Newton has that big game factor.
I mean, what happens if Manning wins? What's the storyline then? Manning hobbled, benched, comes back, beats his arch nemesis, and then wins the Super Bowl and rides off to the sunset. How nauseating will that be?
I want him taking a piss test.
Yeah.
Seriously. Like, everyone was so quick to dismiss the HGH thing, and it's a non-story now in the media, which I think is completely wrong, given the treatment of Tom Brady and Deflategate and other players who have broken rules. Not just, I'm not trying to make it a Brady Manning thing.
Well, I think they should at least do the investigation.
Exactly. If you want to preach integrity or anything like that, show some consistency, do your research. But if the guy wins the Super Bowl this year, I want him to take a live piss test on the 50-yard line.
You want him to
before he touches the Lombardi Trophy.
Do you want him to flop it out right there on national TV?
No. We can get a nice little curtain for him, and probably only need one that's 3 inches by 3 inches. All the HGH shrinks it up a little bit on you. You gotta get him a nice bottleneck cup so that he can aim pretty easily. But
no, I hope he loses, because I don't want to hear that story. Then they're gonna start talking about the debate's back on between Manning Brady.
Oh my God,
that's gonna be the worst. Because tell you what, Brady's 1-3 versus Manning in AFC Championship games. That's that exists now, and it's gonna stay that way because I think Manning's gonna retire.
Yeah. If the Broncos win the Super Bowl, I will not be on the podcast in 2 weeks on Monday morning.
Yeah, no, I think I'll take it off.
I think we might just not show up to work that day.
Yeah, and that's the rough thing is, you go back to Bill. Bill, you put us in this situation. You did. Sorry, Chief. And I'll give you credit. You when asked about Gostkowski saying he blames himself, you owned up a little bit and you said, yeah, I beat myself up over some of the decisions I made too. And good for you, Bill. Good for you for being a human being and admitting the fact that you can make mistakes, because you made a damn big one.
God, this is so draining.
Yeah, this is
just talking about it.
The unhappy podcast.
I woke up this morning with such a massive hangover, and I called you first thing, and I was like, it only seems fitting that I feel like garbage when we do this podcast, because I feel like garbage. And now I'm totally in good health. It's about 5:30, 6 o'clock?
Yep.
So I've been over my hangover for probably 6 hours now.
And
but just talking about this again, I feel like I'm going to throw up. I feel physically ill again.
Yeah, it's frustrating. It's always more fun to talk about the Pats when they win. And when they don't win, kind of just, it hits you and you got to deal with it.
I think it's just anytime you get eliminated in the playoffs, a little piece of your soul dies. Especially where this is our first year of Patriots football, where we have been podcasting on a fairly regular basis. Yep. I feel like I invested so much time in this team this year, especially, Deflategate, Murder Everybody tour coming back around. This year hurts.
I always feel like when you're not the better team and you lose in the playoffs, then you can get over it,
yeah.
If we were 10-6 and we eked into the playoffs and you had a nice run, fine, whatever.
This one's just so much different because you are literally 2 decisions away from having won the game, assuming everything plans out the way that it did.
And if you manage the end of the season better, you're at home, and you know what? I think if you're at home, you win this one going away. I really do. And that's how drastic the difference is. A lot of people over the course of this past week were talking about how this Denver thing is overstated and how it doesn't matter that Brady's only 2-6 on the road in Denver. No, you want to know what, you guys? That stat is that stat for a reason.
You see, I thought it would be a factor, but I didn't think it was a factor that they couldn't overcome and win the football game. That was the way that I felt about it, that, yeah, that stat exists. It's probably a real thing, but this is one of the more talented Patriots teams showing up to go play the game in Denver, to the point where I think they could win. When you just look at the matchup, sometimes you end up with egg on your face, and here we are.
I hope that next year Bill doesn't decide to throw games away, because I think that Denver is still going to be a team that's going to compete for that number 1 seed, regardless of who's quarterback. They've showed that that's not how their team is built.
Their defense is just so good.
Yep.
Their defense and their running game.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very old-fashioned style of football, and a lot of people like to say that doesn't work nowadays. But I mean, you saw Smash Mouth win the game in the trenches type football, win that game yesterday.
I think that it works better when you're at home, obviously.
Yeah.
And
I think everything works better when you're at home, but
yeah, next year you're gonna have to really push for the number 1 seed, because if you're gonna travel to Denver again, you're probably gonna lose again. And I don't know. I just hope that Bill's learned his lesson, because he's clearly overconfident down the stretch, and he got burnt for it.
Yeah. Well, I know they say if wishes were fishes, the world would be an ocean. But what does this game look like with Dion Lewis healthy in the backfield? Do you think that's got to weigh on your mind as a potential game changer?
It did. A lot of those plays, those throws down the sideline, where James White had to go up and try to make a play on the ball, and he couldn't. I just imagine, well, if that was Dion Lewis, that's probably a catch. If that was Dion Lewis, he probably breaks that for a touchdown. And he's been out for so long now that I have a hard time blaming his injury for the reason why we lost. But with White being as much of a factor as he was in this game, he's pretty much about like a 50% version of Dion Lewis. It's hard not to notice that.
We'll see. I think the biggest place where you miss him is just that he's a playmaker. If you get him the ball, he can make things happen on his own.
You can dial plays up for him.
And Jules can also be that guy, but with his foot being kind of an iffy, I mean, he didn't look to be ailed by his foot at all.
No, he didn't have a fantastic game though.
Right, and if I'm Tom Brady, I'm not throwing the ball to Julian Edelman on a screen and looking for him to run 35 yards. I want him to catch the ball, pick up maybe an extra 2 or 3 with his feet if he's got some space, and get down and not get hurt. So I think when you look at Dion Lewis as a playmaker not being in the game, and Julian Edelman having to kind of almost dumb down his game a bit because of his foot.
Yep. And
those are 2 big factors. And Denver
we had
was quite
no running game. We had none, Tom.
That's been the whole year, though. I think they ran the ball 9 times from scrimmage, and I think they ran it too many times.
15, excluding Brady's, who, by the way, was the leading rusher.
Yeah. Yep.
We needed a run game that game. We did. We needed to do something on the run. They could just dial up these pass blitzes and get to you, because they had no worry of getting beat up, at the seam, or beat up off the tackle on a run, because you got no players there. You had no running backs.
They did a really good job of disguising their defensive coverages too, because there were times when Gronk was literally triple covered coming up the seam, and it didn't look like anyone else was open.
Yeah.
And so you're just kind of doing some basic math and going, okay, they're rushing 3, still putting pressure on you. Gronk is triple teamed, and everyone else is covered. It's kind of like,
because we were losing 1-on-1 up front. We were getting abused by Miller, by Ware.
We were losing 1-on-2 up front in some occasions.
Yeah, well, okay, Marcus Cannis needs to go. He needs to go.
The Patriots need to take 5 offensive tackles this year in the draft. 5. I would love to see them spend every draft pick at offensive tackle.
And this is another place where not having that first round pick is going to hurt, because that probably would have been used. What are we going to pick, like 28? 29?
That sounds about right. 29, I think.
And you could have grabbed an offensive lineman, but now that's gone. So you're going to have to fall deeper into the draft and hope you get someone with talent, or find someone in free agency who's not going to cost you an arm and a leg.
But that's not their fault.
No, I mean, it's not their fault. But
I don't hold that against the Patriots. I really wish that Robert Kraft hadn't kind of given
up. Yeah, he gave up on that.
But you know what? I think that's a Goodell manipulation, because I think at the time I thought they had some sort of deal worked out behind closed doors.
That's how it seemed.
And that Goodell just plain slapped him in the face with the loss of the first round pick. I think you would have paid the money happily and not said anything about it. But when you take the pick away and still try to give Brady 4, you're making enemies at that point.
Yeah, and so, I mean, there's not much to talk about. I mean, there's no game going forward. So, anything else you want to discuss today, or
No, I just don't know.
Spurs Warriors tonight?
Woo!
It's gonna be a good game.
No, it will be a good game. I just am having a hard time getting excited about anything today.
Yeah. Well, I mean, nothing really to add other than I think we both think that the Denver Carolina game is gonna be a shit show. And
yeah, I mean, we have plenty of time to hear from both teams, and media day is basically a week-long event at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be a lot of talk this week about the matchup. Let's not take picks now because we're going to need to talk about it next week. So we'll spend this week really breaking everything down, or we'll spend next week rather really breaking everything down. I mean, do you want to go like a position by position based breakdown next week?
Yeah, we can
for the game.
We can do something like that.
I feel
or
like
we can allocate more time for Celtics and Bruins. If any of you guys out there listening, you prefer one thing or the other, just let us know. You want us to focus on the Super Bowl heavily? You want us to do more Bruins, more Celtics? It's your guys' call. The Patriots agenda is kind of dead for the moment.
Yeah, get at us on Twitter.
Yep.
Let us know what you want to hear us talk about.
I'm Ryan_Will_NE as in New England. And Tom, you are?
I am Tom X Thomp. That's THOMP on Twitter.
Yep. And we'll see you guys next week. Shout out to Chase the Wind for letting us use their music for our intro.
Have a great week, everybody.